Top 5 Tuesday, and today's topic, as decided by the magical wheel, is musical instruments. Now I've got to think of 5 musical instruments. Always the same, isn't it? Well, I know what number 1's going to be. I feel like most of my top 5s open in exactly the same way. I say, oh, I've got to think of 5, and then, oh, I know what number 1's going to be. Brilliant, isn't it? Probably number 2 as well. I know what those are going to be. It's just 3, 4, and 5. Because you see, it's about the sound. The sound is very important, but it's also down to the general purposability, which you know by now, and watching the top 5s, I find very important, and the aesthetic of the instrument. So, I'd be tempted to go like glockenspiel or tubular bells or something for number 5. Yeah. Something like that. I'm not exactly sure of the actual difference between glockenspiel and tubular bells. They're very similar, but they both sound very nice. It's a magical sort of instrument. It's the sort of thing that you use for fantasy or... Yeah, I'm just thinking like magic. It sounds like magic. That's what it sounds like. In fact, if I can find a nice little easy to use sample, I'll pop one in the video. So that's number 5, glockenspiel. Let's go with glockenspiel for ease of use. Also, it sounds great, glockenspiel. Number 4. Do you know? I'm quite a fan of the. I'm going to say grand piano. It's probably a very obvious one, but the piano is just such a great instrument for all sorts of purposes. You know what a piano sounds like, but here's a clip. It's great for classical pieces with a group of instruments. It's great on its own. In fact, it's fabulous on its own if it's done right. There's times when just the piano can be very boring, but then there's times like the Sims soundtrack where it's just the greatest thing you've ever heard. And if you are good with the piano, then you can make some fantastic music. But it's also good in various different genres. I'm thinking classical, I'm thinking ragtime, I'm thinking, well, Elton John, rock, all sorts, and I feel like it's quite often used, either piano or just the keyboard in general, for writing music, just because it's, I guess because it's probably quite easy to learn. I mean, I could be wrong in that regard, but it's not like, say, a guitar where you've got to worry about the fret and the strings and then you've got 6 of them. It's more like just press key, make sound. I was saying that I never learnt to play the piano, but I do have a keyboard upstairs. But yes, grand piano is a lovely, lovely instrument. And of course it requires some force to play it properly. You've got to proper slam your hands down. It's like using a typewriter. Number 3. I'm going to go... I think, number 3, I'm going to go for the Flying V. There is a... Now, I could just say electric guitar, and that would be very simple. Again, a great general purpose instrument. Most music... What am I on about? Most music that I listen to has an electric guitar somewhere involved. But the reason that I go for the Flying V is just because I love the shape. It's such a stupid looking guitar, but I love it. I unironically really like the Flying V and the sort of the very. I think it looks sleek and aerodynamic. It looks like a guitar that's made for playing a particular type of music. But you know, there's also the likes of. I mean, I've come across. Guitarists, one particular guitarist in the past who said that the Les Paul is like the best thing ever. So, you know, I can't really differentiate between guitars, I'll be honest. I don't know enough about electric guitars to know what the difference in sound is. So my entire rating of the electric guitar is based pretty much on the shape of it and the fact that it's used in most of the music that I listen to. Anyway, electric guitar. two is rather similar, the acoustic guitar. You might be thinking, how can you rate them differently, but also right next to each other? And the reason is because they've got very similar purposes. But I'm putting the acoustic guitar a little higher just because, well, again, the type of music that I listen to, often the acoustic guitar is quite prevalent. The only trouble, in fact, you know what, I'm tempted to switch them around, simply because, well, it's difficult. No, I'll leave it as it is, acoustic guitar number 2. Simply because it's everybody's first instrument, isn't it? But, having said that, it's everybody's first instrument, and that's a good thing, I think. I'm just thinking back to all those videos you used to get in 2015 where it was a couple and the guy invariably would play the guitar, the actual guitar, and the girl invariably would play the top bit of the guitar. It's very strange. The two people playing one guitar. It looked very uncomfortable, and it never sounded all that amazing, really. But anyway, I'm a fan of the acoustic guitar, and you can, again, make some wonderful music out of it. It's just a great all-round instrument. You can't really go wrong with an acoustic guitar. Particularly the sort that you can hook up to an amp, and then you've got the best of both worlds there. But my number 1, of course, is going to be the heavy metal instrument, the flute. I love the flute. I love the sound of it. I love the way you can sort of modulate it. So there's a great video by Ian Anderson, and I'll link it in the description. Well, it's not by him, it's an interview of Ian Anderson playing the flute, and he said something like, well, you can play it nicely, and then he plays a little tune on it. For some reason I keep doing that, it's that, isn't it? He plays a little tune and it sounds very nice, and then he says, or you can play it dirty, and then he's just like snorting down it and making loads of weird noises, and it's great. But it's just such a pleasant sound, and that's the key bit for me. It's a very, very nice looking instrument. It reminds me of an airbrush, weirdly. I've got an airbrush, and it's again that sort of sleek, silvery look. It looks almost like a sci-fi type instrument. It's got that sort of look to it. I guess more Giga side of sci-fi than anything else, but hey, it has got a weirdly natural look to it as the flute. But yes, I just love the sound of it. It's such a lovely sounding instrument when you can play it properly, of course. And so that's my number 1. And of course, here's the clip. And there we are, that's my top 5 musical instruments. It's a tricky one because vocal cords are also a musical instrument, but it feels kind of like cheating. I don't know why I'm pressing my vocal cords. It feels kind of like cheating to include those, because then you're getting into top 5 singers territory, and not every singer is going to be in my top 5, so probably disingenuous to say vocal cords, but hey, honourable mention. Anyway, I'm going to drop it there because then I don't go over time. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.